Hi, and welcome to Stories Build Businesses, the show that proves that your story isn't just something to tell, it's the strategy to build your business from. Here we think deeply, we care hard, and we explore how your stories and lived experiences are the key to building a business that is uncopyable, unforgettable, and unmistakably you. I'm your host, Megan Wright, story and strategy coach and founder of Stories Build Businesses. And I'm very excited because today I'm joined by Lindsay McGlone. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Hey, I'm excited.
It's always lovely to have a chat with you. But before we start chatting, I would love you to just introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Excellent. So my name is Lindsay. My pronouns are she, they. You can use them interchangeably. I am an Instagram expert. I help people get better reach, engagement, and make more sales on Instagram. And I'm also a marketing genius.
Exactly. And one of the things you're very good at is picking symbols or repeating motifs like cow print.
So I think that cow prints kind of started because I used to obviously be bullied at school and I used to be called a fat cow. Now, I think that's hilarious because the way that I describe myself is fat. So people use interchangeable language such as larger body, plus size. I've always used the word fat. And what I did with that is absolutely lean on that and play on that, but know that it had a bigger message to me behind the scenes. And I only very recently shared that I wonder if people who used to call me a fat cow see me now, knowing that it's built my business. And so many people was like, I didn't realize that's why you did it. And I think sometimes it's not always necessary to share out loud why you do something.
I love that because actually it just shows that the story of your life really rooted that decision, and that those stories that build your businesses don't necessarily always have to be the ones you tell publicly to start with, that those can be the things that help you make choices and decisions so that your brand really aligns with who you are. I never used to be an animal print person. And because of my two cats and their markings, every time I see leopard print, it just reminds me of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what's really interesting about your brand in particular is you are a very visible brand in terms of how you show up online. You very openly and outspokenly talk about being in a fat body. You have beautiful, brightly coloured hair and lovely, colourful clothes. Do you think there have been any advantages to standing out visually in that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't have to worry about approaching people. I mean, I'm autistic, so I really struggle with social interactions, which really lends itself to the fact that I dress the way that I dress and my makeup is so bold and my hair is so bold because when people see me, they can't miss me. Quite literally, they just can't miss me. So I know that if they know of my existence, they're going to engage with me if they want to. So it comes with its advantages in the sense that I know that if I walk in a space, I'm instantly recognisable. If you know of my existence, people will be like, that's Lindsay, even if they don't know why it's Lindsay, if that makes sense. I
Yes.
also feel on a personal level, it can also be all encompassing in the sense that I can't really walk into a room and be quiet. So it very much works in the sense of building your business. If you ask me if it worked on a personal level, I love people. I also love quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm not afforded that in a lot of opportunities if it's in the sense of going to events and things. So it's double edged.
Is that trap of the influencer edge of what you do, where people feel like they know you, but obviously you don't know them in the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. I want people to connect to me. The biggest thing that I say is that I want people to see that business owners don't have one narrative and one entity, and we don't have to look a certain way or act a certain way. So I'm really glad that people connect with me. Equally, I do have to remind myself. So sometimes when I always say to people, if you ever meet me in person and I look like a rabbit in headlights, it's because I probably am.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of people would think that the more visible you get, the more natural that feels. So it's really interesting to explore that actually as you hit certain milestones, that those vulnerabilities come back up again.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say they increase, they just alter the way that they show up. So there's some rooms I walk in knowing that people are going to be aware of who I am, and I will sit in that space because ultimately it lends itself to my business. Like, let's not beat around the bush, it lends itself. But then when it catches me on those days where I don't think that people are gonna necessarily know who I am and that I'm gonna have to fill it with small talk, and all this is going through my head of how am I gonna interact with people, and then people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're Lindsay," then it throws me back into that headspace of, "Oh, people do know that I exist and they know things about me that I forget that I share."
And do you think there's also a fear there about what preconceived notions or judgments they might have of you before they've ever met you properly in person?
Yeah, I think obviously I'm confident, like, there's no lie about that. I also think that when people meet me in person, there's two things they either think: that I'm exactly how I am online or that I'm standoffish. That is very much through accepting my neurodivergence, accepting that I'm autistic, accepting that my delivery may not always be the way that it's intended to be. I've also been told that I'm scary, which really upsets me. That people are scared of talking to me because of the influence they think that I have. And that's another interesting part, that we put this onus on people that they have such an influence that we couldn't possibly speak to them. And I've done it to people and continue to do it to people. What I can say now it happens to me is we don't ask you to do that.
And actually, whether you're putting high expectations on yourself, if you're putting high expectations on other people, we're all people at the end of the day, and we're all trying our best and we're all trying to build businesses. We don't need that external pressure of living up to someone's perceived idea of who we are on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. Like, you've caught me, it's quite an interesting conversation we're having because you've caught me at a time when I'm really noticing that shift in how people interact with me. And honestly, I'm still in a space where I want to own it. I want to say I've done this well and look at my business grow. And I want to, and I know that that's what I quote unquote should be doing. But all honesty, I'm struggling with it. Like, and it's the clients that have worked with me throughout this year that I can really lean into, like yourself. I know that you know who I am in my truest of form, and that really helps me stay anchored and stay into who I am, because people do pedestal me now. And I retract a bit and I'm like, I never asked you to do that. I say that I want to be a person in influence. I do, but I want to influence how you feel about yourself, your space in the world, how you think you can run a business, how you can show up as yourself. I don't want to influence how people think of me, if that makes sense.
Now, I think with positive opportunities and positive changes in your business, there will be new challenges. And I think it's really helpful for people who are slightly earlier in their business journey to know those things, so that when they get to that point and they go, why do I feel uncomfortable being more visible? Why do I feel uncomfortable that more people are moving towards me? That they know it's not them, it's a natural part of business growth.
Yeah, and I think that when you've existed in a marginalised and underrepresented identity, the only reason people look at you and speak about you is to speak about you in a deprivating way, or to speak about you negatively, or to point out your flaws, or to mimic you. That is the reality. And I think that's another layer for me, is that actually I've not really had the experience of people looking at me in a positive light and having no notes. And I'm starting to notice that people are just starting to see me for me now, and I'm a bit like, it puts me on edge. So I'm still adjusting and coming back to who am I? What am I about? Because it isn't about big months and 10K launches. The monetary value only allows me to do the things that I really care about. And that is the influence that I have on the spaces that I exist in.
That touches on something, which is putting money back into the burlesque and cabaret scene.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of your motivator to make money and to create spaces and opportunities. So I would love to know, how important do you think it is for you and for people in general to have that cause outside of their business that drives them forwards?
I said that I was going to put 10,000 back in for my 10th year in burlesque. I absolutely wouldn't have made the money if I'd have not said that I was going to do that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm getting upset.
Oh,
I'm okay. I'm okay. It's so important to me to do something to give back because I wouldn't be the person I was without burlesque and cabaret. Now, of course, that's not my only motivator. I'd be lying if I said that it was, but it is huge. It's overwhelmingly huge. I can feel it to my core and my heart because there's so many people that I love around me that are incredible artists. And I want us to move out of that complex of we need to be a starving artist because we don't. We can change that narrative for ourselves. So it's really interesting having a cause that's not directly within business. And I am really proud of the work that I've done around that. So much so that I cried on a podcast recording, which I didn't know was going to happen.
sorry about that. But I think it just shows how much you genuinely care and how important it is to you. And I think having those causes outside of business, for me, sustainability and supporting cultural landmarks is really important to me. It's something that really drives me, particularly because of my love of stories. When I think of museums and libraries, like they're the people that hold our stories and protect them. They are the people who make sure that those stories are accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And if we lose those, then stories and history starts being gatekept. It is a really important driver. It helps you make choices. It's those things that make us different and unique, and the way that we approach business is unique in that way. The other thing was you talked about being in a marginalised body and identity. And one of the phrases that I hear you use occasionally, not always, but occasionally, is you use the term unpalatable fat.
Yes.
So I would love you to just unpick a little bit about what to you that means.
Okay. So, I mean, I geek out on this stuff. So, there are different scales of fatness. And what it basically means is the larger that you are, the more marginalised you are for existing in your body because your access to things becomes smaller as you become larger. So if you were to put me into the category of fatness, let's say, I am considered a large fat person. I am not a size 18, I'm a size 26. I walk in spaces and people look shocked and audibly make noises. So I'm not palatable in that sense. And I'm also not palatable because I refuse to hide my body. I dress for myself, not for the people who surround me. Also, I don't fit the narrative that I should hate myself because of the body that I exist in. And respectfully, my body shouldn't make you feel anything about yourself. So if it does, there's work you need to do, and I will not minimize my existence to make somebody more comfortable.
And I love that. And I think that's so important in business as well. Like, I talk a lot about how there's lots of people who can offer similar things. And so it's up to us to show who we are and why we're different so that they can make an informed choice and have that autonomy over who it is they learn from. So it's not just about what they're learning, it's about how they're learning it and who they're learning it from.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes a huge difference. And that's the biggest thing for me. You've heard me, one of my taglines is nobody teaches Instagram like I do. And I literally know that for a fact. Like, it's a bold statement to make. How do you know? I just know nobody's going to teach it how I teach it because I am me.
I'm the same in that so many people talk about storytelling just as marketing or content. And I'm like, no, I want to take this so much deeper. Like, this is the structure and the architecture of your whole business. This isn't just something we're adding on at the top. And so I know in my heart that the way I talk about it is different. That's why I'm so passionate about changing how people see storytelling, is because I'm seeing a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've talked a bit about visibility. We've talked a bit about some of the downsides to being online and people's opinions. And I know recently you had an experience where a really wonderful, exciting, joyful moment went viral, and the response wasn't wonderful from everybody. So if you're open to it and you feel comfortable and safe to, I would love to explore that with you.
Yeah, all good. There was a video from my event Reclaim Means Business, and it was of me and Danny Wallace. I was in my burlesque outfit and we were singing. So it was completely unstaged. It was real and actual and in real life. And it was caught by somebody else, and Danny posted it and shared, how much she enjoyed the event and her experiences of knowing me and things like that. Anyway, the video, it got quite a bit of traction, and it was just filled with horrific abuse. It was such a vulnerable moment, and it was real, like it was really real. I think that's what it was for me. It was such a real moment that people then inserted themselves in, basically. That's a horrible word, but I know what it means. They inserted themselves in to just pull me apart. I did a live explaining, I don't want you to respond, I don't want you to retaliate. I want you to use it as a moment to call out fatphobia and say that fatphobia exists and this is what it looks like and it's real. Yeah, it did scare me. I was terrified. I stayed with my friends. I came off socials. Like, I couldn't really do anything. I was terrified of coming home because I live on my own. It scared me and I didn't like it, and I really don't want it to happen again. The reality is that it probably will. Unfortunately, it is the norm, but we need to use it to challenge it.
The fact that you did keep those comments up, that you didn't delete that video, it did really galvanize a lot of other people in the online business space to speak out about fat phobia as a topic in a way that maybe hadn't happened previously, in terms of multiple people all talking about it very loudly all at once.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's not just enough to not be fat phobic. You need to actively be calling out when you see fat phobia within business spaces, because there are still people who put things out and equate losing weight to being successful in business or determined. Yeah. And it's just not true. And not only does it perpetrate that really dangerous narrative that looking a certain way is the key to success, but when people then align themselves with people who post like that, when people are in spaces with people who think like that, it makes those spaces seem less safe for people who are living in bigger bodies. Because yes, you're not saying it yourself, but I'm also not seeing you calling it out. I'm seeing you allow it to happen, and that feels just as unsafe. And so I wonder what you think the next step is in the business space when it comes to diverse bodies. What would you love to see happen?
Well, just quickly touching on that about the volume of people that posted about it, I couldn't really sit in it because of what was happening, but I have never, ever experienced that shift in people so quickly, where people even just using the word fact readily without it being loaded. It was a real shift. You could feel it. It was tangible. And I think in response to diverse body types, that is the next step, is being vocal, actually, about what you will and will not tolerate. Because people think it's as simple as, well, I accept all bodies. I accept all bodies in my space. I don't tell anybody to lose weight. Okay, cool. But what about your client that walks around dismissing fat people? What about your client that openly is negative around people who look a certain way? What about your client that stands on stage and says, like losing weight as a narrative of success? How far are you prepared to go to this? So I think it's really an education piece, and it's how far you would go into calling people in, calling people out, having those awkward conversations, regardless of who they are and how much money they've spent with you. That's where the real change is. We can have the conversations, but the people who see it through, it's rare.
And I think it's that seeing it through as well, because I think we've all seen people who, when the swell happens,
Yeah.
they say the right things.
Yeah.
And then days, weeks later, they're back to talking about how going to the gym and being slim makes them a better business owner.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not just about what you say when the conversation is happening, is what you do and what you say when the conversation isn't as loud. That is the thing that people are going to notice. And that's what's going to make people either feel safe enough to move towards you or move away from you.
Yeah, it's what you say when you think nobody can hear you.
100%. So the thing that I like to do to kind of wrap up episodes, and I didn't pre-warn you about this because I didn't want you to be nervous about it, is I like to gift people a word. So I think about all of the things we've chatted about, all the stories that we've shared, and try and find the word that I think ties them all together.
Okay.
And I think the thing that's really tied everything together for us today is growth, and the fact that growth doesn't always feel comfortable.
No.
Growth can be amazing and powerful, but also scary and vulnerable. And so I think that for me has been the overarching theme of everything we've talked about, is the idea that growth is necessary, but it isn't always a smooth or comfortable journey in the way that people maybe perceive from the outside that it is.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat. And I apologise again for making you cry. That was not my intention.
Not apologise. Thank you for asking me some really good, necessary questions. I've really enjoyed it.
And thank you to everyone who's been listening to this episode of Stories Build Businesses. If today's episode has resonated, I'd love you to share it with someone who you think needs to hear this conversation. And make sure to connect with me over on Instagram at Stories Build Businesses and Lindsay at Rolling with Lindsay. Remember, your story matters more than you think it does, and the way you build your business gets to feel good. See you next time. Bye.